what if the solid chair you're sitting on right now isn't actually, you know, a fixed object?
Right, like it's just a projection.
Exactly.
Right.
And what if the walls around you, the sunlight hitting the floor, like the entirety of your immediate physical environment, are all things your mind is actively rendering in real time?
That's a huge idea.
It really is. Like, if your focus slips, or if your mind gets bogged down by fear or distraction, does the world around you actually start to degrade?
I mean, it fundamentally flips the script on how we experience life, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because we're entirely conditioned to believe we're just passively walking through a pre-existing universe. But the text we're exploring today proposes something far more radical.
Way more radical.
It suggests we're actively generating our reality atom by atom through the purity and direction of our consciousness.
So, welcome to this deep dive. If you're joining us, we know you are that specific kind of learner, the one who is always hunting for that next big aha moment. You don't just want the surface level summary, right?
No, you want the mechanics.
Exactly, the mechanics behind the mystery. Those ideas that completely rewire how you see the mundane world. And today, we have a mission to unpack a truly perspective-shifting document provided by you, our listener.
It's a fascinating one.
It is. It's a translated 2006 article by Shuifeng titled Reality Emerges from the Mind Chapter of Celestial Cultivation, Article 12.
And I have to say, the scope of this article is incredibly ambitious. Shuifeng pulls from this wildly eclectic mix of sources.
It really does.
Like everything from classical Chinese parables to 1990s Western spiritual literature. And he uses all of this to articulate a concept he calls celestial immortality.
Which sounds very abstract, but he gets really granular with it.
Right, he isn't interested in abstract philosophy at all. He's actually trying to map out a literal mechanism for how human devotion and visualized thinking dictate the physical world.
And he chooses such a fascinating starting line. Like, he doesn't open with quantum physics or dense spiritual dogma. He starts with art.
Yeah, specifically parables of extreme creation.
Which makes sense, right? Because art is arguably the most universal way humans take an invisible idea and just force it into physical existence.
Precisely. So he focuses on the story of a sculptor. And this artist isn't just, clocking in and chipping away at a block of marble.
He's obsessed.
Completely obsessed with creating a life-size statue of an extraordinarily beautiful woman. And the text emphasizes his internal state far more than his physical technique.
Right. He's sculpting based entirely on an image held in his heart.
Yeah, and the description of his process is wild. He's conversing with this image in his mind. He feels deep affection for her. The author writes that the sculptor pours his essence, energy, spirit, heart, and mind into every single stroke of the chisel.
Every single strike.
Yes. Every strike is a synchronization of his internal vision and external reality.
Wow.
And then we reach the climax of the parable. Upon delivering the final strike, the celestial maiden comes to life.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second.
Yeah.
Because my modern skeptical brain instantly flashes warning lights when I read about statues coming to life.
Sure, yeah.
I start wondering, are we supposed to read this as literal magic? But Shuifeng is very careful with his wording here, right?
He is. He explicitly states that the physical marble statue remained a statue. The stone didn't magically turn into flesh.
Right, which is an important distinction, because for the listener right now, think about a coder getting completely lost in building a complex app or a writer finishing a massive novel. You hit that flow state.
Oh, absolutely.
You pour so much uninterrupted focus into the project that the thing you're building starts talking back to you. It takes on a momentum of its own.
It becomes its own entity.
Exactly. And Shuifeng seems to be suggesting that this isn't just poetic phrasing. That thing talking back is a newly minted non-material essence.
What's fascinating here is that the author's core argument is that complete, single-minded devotion acts as a literal bridge between the material world we touch and the non-material world of essence.
So the marble stays marble.
Right, but its non-material essence emerged, formed an eternal bond with the sculptor, and achieved immortality. He even claims this process embodies the core teachings on faith from Jesus Christ.
That is a massive parallel to draw. And then he immediately follows the sculptor with another story about a miraculous painter.
The cream painter.
Yeah. This guy draws cranes on a wall in front of a massive crowd. And as soon as the final brushstroke is applied, the cranes physically peel off the plaster and soar into the sky.
And he contrasts those two stories deliberately. because the sculptor created a non-material essence that remained tethered to the physical world.
Right. But the painter manipulated physical reality so completely that the art literally flew away.
Exactly. Yet, and this is wild, Xu Feng calls the crane painting a trivial skill.
Wait, making paintings fly is trivial.
To him, yeah. He considers manipulating physical matter the most cumbersome method of creation. For him, the supreme art is the direct, pure cultivation of the mind itself, free from needing marble or paint at all. He cites this fetch known as the super-celestial U from Snow Peak Island as the ultimate example of this pure mental practice.
But if this intense, pure focus works on inanimate objects like marble or paint, it forces us to ask a much bigger question. What happens when we turn that exact same laser focus onto our own human bodies?
This is where the document takes a massive leap. We go from art to literal human ascension.
Yeah, and he uses two wildly different cultural touchstones to explore this. First, he reinterprets the famous Chinese legend of Liang Shanbo and Zhu Yingtai.
Known in the West as the butterfly lovers.
Right, and the traditional romanticized version of the story ends with the two tragic lovers dying and transforming into beautiful butterflies. It's a poetic metaphor for love surviving death.
But Zhu Feng rejects the butterfly version completely.
He says it's a writer's fabrication, doesn't he?
He does. In his version of reality, a much more forceful event occurred. He states that lightning violently cracked open Zhu's tomb, Liang jumped inside, and rather than becoming insects, they fulfilled a final energetic rite and ascended together into the celestial realm.
Just a sudden physical departure from the material plane.
Exactly.
And just as you're processing this ancient lightning strike, he gives you absolute narrative whiplash.
Oh, by quoting the Celestine prophecy.
Yes. The shift from classical Chinese folklore to a 1993 American spiritual bestseller is just jarring. But he's doing it for a specific reason.
Right. He's looking for universal patterns.
Right. The Celestine prophecy was massive in the 90s. And he zeroes in on what the book calls the ninth insight. He highlights a specific scene where a character named Will is walking toward a group of friends. And as he gets closer, his image becomes hazy, distorted, and eventually he completely disappears.
And another character explains it by saying, "They can't see us. We are vibrating too highly."
Wait, vibrating so high you become invisible to other people. Let's ground this for a second, because the phrase vibrating highly has been diluted by decades of pop spirituality. Are we talking about Will literally turning invisible to the human eye? Or is this an analogy for reaching a state of such profound peace that the drama and the fears of the ordinary world just can't locate you anymore?
Like tuning your radio to a station that the people around you can't hear.
Yes, exactly.
Well, Xu Feng addresses the mechanics of this directly. He argues this high frequency isn't just a mental trick to improve your mood, and it's not merely a metaphor for dodging drama.
Yeah.
He writes that it's the inevitable result of a purified soul seeking the mysteries of life. Whether he points to Liang and Zhu ascending in a storm or Will disappearing in the 90s, he is identifying a shift in physics.
A shift in physics.
Yeah. When you eliminate fear and focus intensely on beauty, you fundamentally alter your relationship with dense matter.
I really want to dig into that concept of density, because fear isn't just a bad feeling, it's a heavy anchor. When you're terrified, your body tenses, your vision narrows, your entire biological system locks into survival mode. You are literally heavier, physically anchored to immediate threats.
That's spot on. Fear forces your consciousness to obsess over the material world. It demands that you constantly scan your physical environment for danger.
You can't focus on anything else.
Right, and that obsession with dense physical reality keeps your soul's frequency low. But by actively choosing to focus on beauty, you stop feeding energy into that survival mechanism.
Your consciousness lightens.
Yes, your frequency rises, and according to Xu Feng, the dense rules of material reality just stop applying to you.
But I can hear a skeptical listener right now saying, this sounds beautiful, but it still feels a bit abstract. Like, how does feeling good or focusing on a flower literally change the atomic structure of my reality?
Right.
But this is where the document really surprised me.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't leave this as a mystery. He attempts to provide the actual physics of the soul.
He introduces a triad that defines all physical existence: structure, consciousness, and energy.
And we need to define structure in his context, right? Because it's not just physical scaffolding.
No, structure is the underlying blueprint of reality itself. Energy is the raw, unformed fuel of the universe. But consciousness is the crucial director.
The soul is the core of consciousness.
Exactly. And it is the mechanism that takes raw energy and forces it into a specific structure.
Here's where it gets really interesting. To explain exactly how the soul manipulates that raw energy, he introduces the principle of the solar stove. I love this analogy because it grounds this whole esoteric conversation in such a practical image.
The solar stove is brilliant. So think about a single tiny mirror reflecting sunlight. It holds very little energy. You could hold your hand in front of it and barely feel a warm spot.
Barely anything. But if you take 100 of those small mirrors, or 1,000 of them, and you meticulously angle every single one to reflect light onto one precise solitary point, you change the nature of the energy.
The concentrated light generates immense heat. It can ignite wood, it can boil water.
Scattered light is weak, but focused light creates fire. Think about the modern equivalent, the difference between a standard light bulb and a laser beam. A light bulb illuminates a room by throwing scattered, weak photons in 360 degrees.
That's our default human mind.
Yes. A million thoughts bouncing in a million directions. Worrying about an email, stressing about traffic, replaying some awkward conversation you had 3 years ago.
Always scattered.
But a laser beam is made of light particles traveling in the exact same direction on the exact same wavelength. And because the light is entirely coherent and focused, it can cut through solid steel.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, Shui Feng applies that exact mechanical logic to the human soul. A pure soul acts as that focused array of mirrors, or that laser.
It's not bleeding energy.
Exactly. It isn't bleeding energy through petty grievances or mundane anxieties. It channels consciousness seamlessly. And the environmental implication he draws from this is profound. The space you inhabit is a direct reflection of your soul's focus.
It's a literal formula for environmental design. Like, if you are sitting in a chaotic, hostile environment, your scattered, fear-driven mind might be the very engine generating that hostility.
You're essentially pointing your mirrors at chaos, creating a localized fire of stress.
Wow. Conversely, a purified, focused mind generates a wondrous space. He emphasizes that illness arises from the mind and reality is shaped by the heart.
When your consciousness acts as a perfect solar stove, you direct raw energy into a beautiful, harmonious structure. You render a new reality around yourself, almost like a localized aura of altered physics.
Okay, but if our focused laser beam mind is successfully creating this wondrous space, where is it? Like, if the sculptor's statue generated a non-material essence and Welly vibrated it into an invisible heaven, where do they actually go?
That is the big question. And to answer the geography of all this, Shui Feng introduces the concept of Taiji thinking.
Taiji thinking.
Yes, it requires us to grasp the absolute necessity of duality, the yin and the yang.
So let's break that down for someone who hears yin and yang in just pictures, like a tattoo from the early 2000s. How does this prove the existence of an invisible realm?
Well, think about a shadow. You cannot have a shadow unless there is a light source and a physical object blocking it. The existence of the shadow proves the existence of the light.
Okay, that makes sense.
Taiji thinking applies that logic to the entire universe. Where there is a front, there must be a back. Where there is dense physical matter, there must logically be an equal and opposite non-material counterpart.
A mirror universe.
Right. Shui Feng argues that the physical universe we see is only half the equation. The unseen realm isn't some magical fairy tale. It is the structural requirement for the seen realm to exist.
The hardware and the software. And he uses the most common, everyday human experience as his definitive proof that we already interact with this invisible software realm.
Dreams.
Dreams, which completely challenges the modern neurobiological consensus, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Because normally we think of dreams as just the brain defragmenting its hard drive. It's biological static, just the garbage collection of the mind clearing out the day's stress.
But Shui Feng completely dismisses that view. He argues that the complex structures, beings, and landscapes you experience in a dream cannot be generated from nothing.
They have to come from somewhere.
Right. When you dream, your consciousness is actually entering that non-material world. Your physical body shuts down, your dense sensory organs power off, and your soul temporarily explores the yin to our physical yang.
So what does this all mean? That reframes the entire concept of human imagination. Like, if dreams are actual field trips to an existing non-material physics, what does that say about our daydreams, what Shui Feng calls our visualized thinking?
This raises an important question because he makes this declarative statement. Visualized thinking is the activity of the soul.
Activity of the soul.
Yeah. When you sit quietly and intensely visualize an outcome or an environment or a piece of art, you are not just hallucinating inside your skull. You are in the non-material gym.
Lifting weights?
Exactly. You are actively moving energy in the unseen space, building the structures that will eventually manifest or house your consciousness.
Now, he acknowledges that to the average person, this all sounds absurd. The idea of celestial immortality through mind cultivation sounds like an esoteric fantasy.
He anticipates the skepticism for sure. However, he insists that as human consciousness rises and we sharpen our understanding of these non-material physics, celestial immortality will be viewed not as magic, but as a biological and spiritual inevitability.
As natural as the turning of the seasons.
Yes.
But we need to define his version of immortality. Because the mainstream goal of immortality usually involves, a billionaire trying to upload his brain to a server or freeze his body in liquid nitrogen. We tend to view immortality as figuring out how to drag this specific meat suit through eternity.
Which is deeply rooted in the fear we discussed earlier, the fear of losing the dense material structure.
Right.
In Schwething's framework, true immortality has nothing to do with preserving the physical body. It's about shifting your consciousness so completely into the non-material realm through visualized thinking that the physical body's eventual decay becomes irrelevant.
You've already built your house in the unseen world.
Exactly. You are like the cranes painted on the wall. Your essence is ready to peel off and fly away the moment the physical medium degrades.
That is profound. And he ends the article with this fantastic mic drop. He simply states, "I have already pierced the veil. The rest is up to you."
He just provides the mechanical blueprint and steps back.
So let's look at the totality of that blueprint. We started with parables of extreme creation. Artists who utilized such pure, undivided devotion that their focus brought actual non-material essence into existence.
And then we moved from art to the self, exploring how that same devoted focus, when pointed toward beauty and away from fear, strips the dense weight from our consciousness and raises our frequency.
We looked at the mechanics of this shift through the solar stove. The realization that our consciousness is a collection of mirrors, capable of taking raw energy and focusing it into a pinpoint capable of burning a new physical structure into reality.
And we arrived at the ultimate destination of that energy, the non-material realm dictated by Taija thinking, a place we visit every night in our dreams, where our visualized thinking acts as the architectural labor building our eternal environment.
The ultimate takeaway for you, the listener, is that your mind is not a passive camera recording a fixed world. You are an active architect rendering your environment in real time, which leads to a crucial final thought we really need to explore today.
Yeah, the solar stove analogy is incredibly empowering, but it also carries a profound warning when applied to the world we currently inhabit.
Oh, absolutely.
We just established that a pure, focused mind acts like 100 mirrors concentrating sunlight to create fire.
Now contrast that requirement for intense focus with the reality of our daily lives. We live in an attention economy that is an absolute masterclass in fracturing human consciousness.
Constant push notifications,
Yeah.
the endless scroll of social media, the 24-hour news cycle delivering just a steady drip of anxiety-inducing headlines.
The entire system is perfectly designed to take those 100 mirrors of your consciousness and angle every single one of them in a completely different direction.
And by allowing our attention to be endlessly fractured, we are systematically disabling our own solar stoves.
We're breaking the mirrors.
Yeah. If your mind is constantly jumping from a terrifying news story to a work email to a text message to an advertisement, you are never generating enough concentrated heat to create anything.
You're stuck functioning like a weak, scattered light bulb.
Exactly, barely illuminating the chaos around you.
And the fear and the distraction keep us anchored in the dense, heavy reality Shu Feng warned about. It guarantees we never hit the flow state of the sculptor.
So the challenge posed by this text is incredibly urgent. How much of the anxiety and dissatisfaction in your current reality is simply the result of unfocused mirrors?
So the question we leave you with is this. What would happen tomorrow if you chose to radically protect your focus? What if you gathered up all those scattered mirrors of attention, unplugged from the noise designed to manufacture fear, and angled them solely on the beauty immediately in front of you? Think back to the room you woke up in this morning. The walls, the chair, the sunlight. It isn't a finished set piece. It's a live projection. And the beam of light creating it is coming directly from your own mind. The film is entirely yours to direct. So what happens when you finally decide to change the real? We want to thank you so much for sending us this incredible document and for taking this journey with us. Keep questioning the physical world around you. Keep focusing those mirrors, and we invite you to return right here for your next personalized deep dive.